Wall Street is looting the American retirement system. The Trump administration is helping. A third proposed change would restrict retirement investments with an underlying environmental, social, or governance mission, mainly to boost the struggling. https://www.fool.com/investing/2020/07/15/3 oil stocks that could go bankrupt in 2020. ASPX, fossil fuel industry. Damn libs and their green energy. You have to use oil. Grifters about to raid your 401ks. My goodness, you did let the rats into grain silo. They got them focused on the idiots hijacking protests, and taking away credibility for the movement in the process, for some TVs and SPOXes. But the real looting is hidden in plain sight. My grandfather died in June of COVID-19. Going through his stuff was hard enough. But he left behind some bank statements and a bunch of what looked like junk mail from Trump. It was not junk mail. It was business reply mail. Turns out, WinRed, one of Trump's official campaigns, has been taking, ready for this, more than $40 a day for over 7 months or so, until we noticed when he passed away. We tried to dispute it, because we had no idea it was an auto pay feature that was automatically set. They robbed him blind of thousands while he was on his deathbed. I promise you, if you have a family member that is older and voted for this fucking lunatic, please check into their banking. I am not the only one here that this has happened to, and there's more than WinRed out there. We are looking into the Heritage Foundation and the NRA as well, as we saw quite a large amount of donations from their account. It's sad to think my grandfather was robbed by the POTUS and his henchmen, and that people will tell me I'm fucking wrong or it isn't the Trump Foundation. To those people, fuck off. Edit. Hey y'all, thanks for the support. I am absolutely not letting this go to rest without a fight. My grandfather was a Navy vet. He was a good man. He would do anything for anyone. That's all I've ever known him to do. We are absolutely seeking legal counsel. There's just a lot we must do first due to his death, but I just wanted to throw that in there. The man did his duty for this country, and the draft dodger steals what little they give him for retirement. It's all a big fucking mess. Fuck Donald Trump, and fuck you if you think he would even piss on a military vet if they were on fire. I don't understand this, but as long as we're owning the libs, it's fine. Average Trump voter. So greedy that millions and billions aren't enough, that they want our money also. Private equity is a type of hedge fund comprising private investors who buy privately held, struggling companies in order to rehabilitate or liquidate them, collecting extremely high fees and enriching shareholders either way. Direct investments in private equity and other types of hedge funds are typically restricted to high net worth individuals or institutions. This is because high net worth individuals and large institutional investors have extra, discretionary money to handle private equity's huge risks, long-term illiquidity, astronomical fees, and capital calls. But a recent study at Oxford University found that, after fees, top private equity funds have performed no better for pension funds over 15 years than if the money were passively indexed to the stock market. So, what they are saying is the little guy is getting screwed by not being able to participate in these highly speculative investments. This is clearly bullshit. The little guy should not be participating in these sorts of investments because the little guy cannot afford the loss. What with being a little guy. The second thing referenced in the article is reducing fiduciary duty requirements for fund managers, which means they no longer have to act with the best interest of the investor as paramount. The change essentially legalizes kickbacks. Lastly, if you follow economic news, you may have noticed that funds like BlackRock are moving out of fossil fuel investments. The entire country of Norway, one of the world's biggest investors, is aiming at divesting entirely. Pretty much everyone can see where fossil fuels are going. Except Scalia, who wants it to be harder to invest in the future of the environment. Private employer-sponsored retirement plans are not vehicles for furthering social goals or policy objectives that are not in the financial interest of the plan, Scalia said in a press release. Scalia is yet another Trump appointee whose background is utterly at odds with the interest of the department he now needs. In this admin, the rats haven't left the ship, they are steering it. A lot of us who didn't vote for Trump will have time to recover. Most of those who did vote for Trump won't. At this rate, I imagine most Americans have given up hope of retiring. Outraged retirees vow to re-elect Trump because this was clearly Biden's fault. For many years, one of the most prominent employer-side litigators was Eugene Scalia himself. None of the prior secretaries of labor, either Democratic or Republican, have been people who have been on the firing line against workers and retirees, said plaintiff's attorney Jerome Schlichter, whose law firm pioneered retirement excessive fee litigation. Schlichter directly butted heads with Scalia in an ongoing retirement fund suit right up until his secretarial appointment. Andy Beer, CEO of As You Sow, a nonprofit that rates the financial sector for its ethical standards, said that Scalia's three most recent Dole rulemakings suggest a personal vendetta. He's couldn't win as an attorney, so he's changing the rules, Beer said. The Republican Party has been using Trump to appoint private sector and lobbyist powerhouses to capture every regulatory agency they can. From day one, this entire administration has been about two things: letting the Republican Party set up their crony donors to raid the Treasury, and enabling Putin to disassemble Western democracy. It's obvious why the beneficiaries of these two agendas decided to work together to solidify their power. Joke's on them. My retirement plan is suicide. It should all trickle down though, in 2,000 or 3,000 years. One of the Trump administration's planned changes to retirement rules will open up 401k investments to high-risk, high-fee private equity funds. Pay attention to your 401k. Make sure it is only going toward low-cost index funds, when you are beginning your career, and then only bring in bonds increasingly as you get closer to retirement. Fuck these equity funds. Wall Street is pretty good at that. It's been shown time and time again that the fat cats of Wall Street are really the fat devils of the world and should be treated as such. Capitalism rewards greed over empathy, lying over sincerity, individualism over common welfare. No one should support such a system. It's almost as if the world's elite wealthiest class of people rule our planet without repercussions or accountability. It's almost as if they're all psychopaths who do not care about the future of the planet or anyone else but themselves. Almost like they know they're going to die and they don't believe in an afterlife or judgment, so they do whatever they want and nobody stops them. When does the pitchforks come out? My father lost $150k from his 401k, and he's destroyed his body for that money. He had to retire early and was denied disability. How many more ways can the system fail its people? Reading through the entire article, it looks like the proposed concrete changes are: 1. Allow 401k participants to invest in riskier investments like hedge funds. This sounds like a good thing and long overdue. No one has to do it, and there's no reason that ordinary people shouldn't have the option of taking advantage of the kinds of investments that are now only available to the wealthy. The current "we know what's best for you" rules are very paternalistic. A reduction in fiduciary requirements for advisors. Unfortunately, it is hard to evaluate this one because the article provides a broken link. Here's an explanation: https://www.morningstar.com/article/998370/another fiduciary rule, I found. I'd say this one is a mixed bag. The proposed standards seem pretty reasonable on their face and consistent with the idea of allowing investors more choice, but I anticipate it will create new scamming opportunities, especially if they're allowing riskier investment vehicles. On balance, this might be okay, but I'd like to know more. Requirements to subordinate non-monetary concerns like the environment in favor of financial returns. WTF? While I suppose there could be some room for rules that a pension fund manager not manage everyone else's money for lower returns by imposing their own personal beliefs that might not be shared by the beneficiaries, what if they only invested in God-fearing companies like Chick-fil-A? The proposed rule goes far beyond that, even putting onerous restrictions on 401ks. What happened to letting people make choices like they said above? This rule is merely wanton destruction.